Find out which of your favorite apps just got bought by giant corporations. Deadpool is not for the kiddies. And on the internet, Microsoft now knows that you're a dog. All that and more on Tech News Today.
This is Twit.
Bandwidth for Tech News Today is provided by CacheFly at CACHEFLY.com. Hi, everybody. It's time for our annual audience survey. We'd really like to hear from you. It helps us understand our audience better, know what you like and don't like, how you listen to the show. It also helps us tell advertisers what kind of people listen. But I promise you, your feedback is always kept personally anonymous. All you have to do is visit twit.tv/survey and let us know what you think. It'll just take a few minutes, and it'll help us make Twit even better. We really appreciate your support and any help you can give us. twit.tv/survey.
This is Tech News Today, episode 1449, recorded on Friday, February 12th, 2016.
This episode of Tech News Today is brought to you by Wealthfront. Wealthfront is a low-cost automated investment service and the most sophisticated way to invest your money. Whether you've got millions or you're just starting out, visit wealthfront.com/TNT and sign up to get your free personalized investment portfolio. That's wealthfront.com/TNT.
And by the Ring Video Doorbell. With Ring, you can see and talk to anyone at your door from anywhere in the world using your smartphone. It's like caller ID for your home. Right now, get free expedited FedEx shipping when you go to ring.com/TNT.
And by PillPack, a full-service pharmacy that combines personalized service, convenient packaging, and modern technology to make your life easier. Visit PillPack.com/twit to save $20 on vitamins and OTCs when you transfer your prescriptions. Hello and welcome to Tech News Today. This is the show where we talk about technology.
On the day
it happens with people who are passionate about technology. I am Megan Morrone.
And I am Jason Howell, and we are here on the day where tech news broke. Kind of.
A little bit.
A little bit.
A little bit.
Thankfully, we were able to dig up enough news today. It's Friday. Sometimes it's a little slow on Friday, but that's okay because we have an amazing guest, a return guest, actually, Georgia Dow of iMore. How's it going, Georgia? Oh, it's good to have you here. It's so good to have you back.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah.
I thought I was on the banned list after last show, but I guess...
You teetered, maybe. No, you didn't at all. Are you
close,
kidding me? You're awesome.
We always love to have you. So thanks for coming on. Should we get started?
Let's do it.
Okay, today we were reminded again that a large part of the presidential election in the United States is happening on Snapchat while us old people are not watching. It's happening for a lot of first-time voters, especially. The New York Times reports that Snapchat's Iowa caucus geo-filters were seen by more than 6 million users. And in case you're not on Snapchat or you didn't watch our episode a few weeks ago where a real live millennial had to teach me what a geofilter was. By the way, it's an overlay for a picture. It gets pulled in from where you are. So there was one for Petaluma that will, have a picture that you take in Petaluma and it has Petaluma in a Petaluman font.
Oh, okay.
In this case, it was for the Iowa caucuses. So, Georgia, I know that you're in Canada. Has Snapchat swept up the political process in Canada as it has here?
Well, I don't know about snapping up the political process, but I do think that it's a wonderful way to get kids and the younger generation involved in politics, because politics is slightly dull. And so it could be dull. Your politics are actually much more exciting than Canadian politics. There's not much to snap on for Canadian politics. But what I love about it is that how do you get people involved? It's use the mediums that they are comfortable with. And so I love that people get to take their own Snapchats, get the tweet them out. I was going to say snap them out. I don't know, Snapchat them
snap
out.
them. Yeah, I think it's snap. I think that's what the kids are calling it.
And so I think that that's a great way to get people involved in politics early.
Yeah, it is interesting. I mean, they have this loyal, so it's this kind of a politics story and kind of a news story. I mean, they have 100 million users, mostly teenagers and millennials. Mm-hmm. And that's loyal and active users. I mean, kids love Snapchat. They're on all day.
It's not that they're on every day. It's that they're on all day, every day. Mm-hmm. It's from some of the kind of accounts that I've read and everything. It's kind of crazy.
And I think it has features, and I'd love to talk to you about this, Georgia. It has features that kids love, like the disappearing photos especially, which as parents we all were like, oh no, that's scary, which it can be a little bit scary. But just the fact that they don't want to hoard all these pictures. They don't want to have to see exactly what they don't want to look beautiful in every picture because it's going to be there forever. I mean, I think there's some things to love about Snapchat. What do you think?
I do. I think that it gives a little bit more thought to privacy, and there's definitely loopholes to that. But I also like the fact that it's just that quick, easy. It gives kids like little bites of information which are easy to digest, and it allows them to be, a part of the process with that, because it's not going to be something that's overwhelming. When you look on TV about the way that politics are covered, there's pundits, they're talking, really verbosely about very, complex social matters, and they just go on about it. And so this is a nice way. It brings them to them in small little wrapped packages, and then they can make them funny, make them enjoyable. They can put down all kinds of filters and make it fun again.
Yeah, what this talks about to a large degree is like in these areas, let's say around a particular event, all of these snaps are being added, and essentially they get grouped up, out of the giant pool of snaps, end up getting grouped up into a single live story that might have multiples in there, all maybe lasting 10 seconds, at the very most. But it's kind of interesting because it brings you into the event in a different way. So, for example, you might be watching on TV, you might be watching the coverage of these events, and then they go to a commercial break. Well, hey, what do you know? The people that are there snapping and adding to these live stories, they're covering even when the big cameras are off. So they catch these really interesting kind of side, events happening. And it's more like citizen journalism than it is, just like random social network conversation. But I do wonder how much of that is substance. You know what I mean? Because it is such short pieces of information, short bits. I don't know really how deep you go if this is used as like a political tool into the actual nuts and bolts of what's being covered. It's more like coverage of the event for the event's sake, as opposed to really getting in there and informing you about the views of this candidate versus the views of that candidate. But maybe that's the point, right? Get them active, get maybe potentially non-voters active and interested in some way on the platform, and then maybe if that sparks their interest, they investigate further outside of it.
Yeah, it's like the gateway drug to social media and politics.
Yeah, and in these shows, we've talked about the Good Luck America, the Peter Hamby show. Right. He's a former CNN reporter, and those are all supported by advertising as well. I mean, for advertisers and for politicians, Snapchat is a great place for them. For people, I mean, for kids and anyone who's on Snapchat, the other thing I like about it, it doesn't revolve around favorites and likes like the rest of social media does, which I think is really different. And I think that is the younger generation just pushing back on that a little bit. I mean, you can see who looks at your story and you can see who doesn't look at your story, but it's not the same as Facebook or Twitter, where we're all just like, how many likes am I going to get? How many favorites am I going to get? And I really like that aspect.
Yeah, it's curated in a certain way, like at least the people that you care about follow, and at least everything that RTD Kara tells us about Snapchat. It really does seem like you're really setting it up around the people that you actually really care about in kind of a different way. I will say that suddenly Snapchat's coming up more and more. I'm hopping in there because the filters are so much fun. And you were playing around with it earlier. I'm like, oh man, the grown-ups are in there now. The kids, this is the beginning of the end essentially. The kids are going to flock somewhere else.
We're gonna ruin the play park.
We're getting too interested at this point.
Yeah.
We're too interested in this.
It's true.
Making music through online streaming is, well, someone might consider it a little bit of a joke. Bands offer merchandise to their ardent fans, and that's kind of what a company called BandPage, not Bandage, thank you, autocorrect, has facilitated for 6+ years, so that bands can make money off their music, even if they're not making money through streaming. And now YouTube has bought the company for $8 million. Actually, $8 million is pretty low based on some of the rounds of funding that the company had gotten. But this was a very loved company. Like, there was a lot of support for this acquisition today. Just, I think, basically because it's had such a crazy history. BandPage started out as a Facebook page enabler. So basically working in the Facebook page functionality to allow, bands on Facebook to add extra information to their Facebook page and sell their products and sell their merchandise and everything. And then, of course, this is the interesting chart. Facebook eliminated support for Facebook pages, and they saw their user base drop from 32 million to around 2 million users overnight because they were kind of all in on the Facebook thing. And so they kind of were forced to change their direction, go through their own independent site and really kind of build that up. And, it's for the musicians, for the independent musician especially. And so it's just kind of neat to see this be integrated into something that, I don't know, it'd be kind of interesting for YouTube to be a platform for this sort of thing.
Yeah. So right now, BandPage works with YouTube competitors, right? But is there any? Did we hear any news today about whether they would still work with the competitors?
No, no news. I mean, they did say. I saw some piece of information that point to them continuing to do that. But, I suppose you never really know with this sort of thing, right? Like acquisition happens and it always sounds like the future, is going to be untouched as far as that's concerned. But you never know a year, 2 years down the line what a company like YouTube, Google is going to decide to do. Do they want to allow for all this stuff to happen through their direct competitors, or do they want to kind of lock it down? I don't know, but
I think it's really interesting, and I think that it's great for, like you make so little money. So like on Pandora, if you get 1 million views on listens to your song, you make $40, which is such a little amount. And so most of the money that you can make is through advertising. And the wonderful things about BandPage, and hopefully they don't change this, is that BandPage only makes money if you make money. And so they were taking just a 15% transaction fee for anything that you sold. And so going in how the transactions are going to go. And there's a much greater share of the profit that goes to the musicians, and the people that love it know that they're supporting the bands that they really care about.
Yeah, another service, and I've used this service plenty of times, called Bandcamp, and it's very kind of similar. It's a place where you can kind of host your music and you can choose to sell it, and it operates on the, as well as merchandise, and it operates on the same kind of idea where, use our marketplace. It's a free service to use. If you sell anything, we take a small portion of that, and not to mention they have a great giant kind of community base with which to draw from. And hey, wouldn't you know, YouTube has a huge music fan base, so this could be a really good partnership.
Yeah. I mean, we talked yesterday about SoundCloud and Pandora and how they were kind of, both sort of failing sadly and maybe weren't going to be part of the music streaming service choices that we have. And we talked mostly about the big artists and how hard it was, they had to pay the labels. We're sort of feeling sorry for SoundCloud and Pandora, but we didn't talk about the little artists yesterday really at all and what that means for them. I mean, because when these streaming services, that was part of the promise of these streaming services, even Apple Music, they talked a lot when they announced it. It's like, well, you can get your own music out there.
Yeah.
But I haven't.
But, I mean, it's so hard for even the largest, the most successful musicians to make any sort of money from streaming right now. It just doesn't happen. So when you're talking about independent musician, I mean, it's pennies. I mean, you know what I mean? You got to move a lot of volume for it to even add up to anything, even remotely considerable.
Yeah, you're really not talking about money as much as just, being heard. Right?
Yeah, being accessible.
Yeah.
Right. You really want, I mean, unless you're, Rihanna or some big name artist where you could conceivably be exclusive. Like when you're an independent, it doesn't matter. You want to be everywhere that anyone could possibly discover your music. And even then it's still difficult.
Yeah.
So.
Well, moving on, RIP independent exercise apps, or is it goodbye athletic wear companies that don't also make wearables? That's what we're reading into the fact that sportswear giant ASICS just bought the popular running app Runkeeper. This comes on the heels of Under Armour's purchase of MyFitnessPal and Endomondo. That happened last year, and Adidas also bought Runtastic last year. Now, in many ways, I feel like this is the same as like Microsoft buying independent apps like Acompli and sort of turning them into Outlook. It's like Microsoft has always done mail. We've always used Outlook, and then all these apps came up, and then Microsoft bought them, and that sort of seems to be what's going on. Like my first exercise wearable was the Nike Plus, the little thing that you put into your Nike shoe. I don't know if anybody else.
Yeah, I remember that.
that was 2006. And, you know, it connected to my iPod, my blue iPod that I used to, you know, carry. And I loved it. And it would tell me my, you know, pace and everything. And then those moved on to the desktop. Like I had all those like map my run and stuff first on the desktop, and I would map it out and, you know, write it down and to keep it in my pocket. And now then I've used all these running apps. I don't know that, I mean, I'm happy for them that they got bought by a big company. I don't think it'll change. I think it makes sense that you know, shoe companies are getting more wearables, although like wearable shoes doesn't really make sense because we've always been wearing shoes.
Wearables in the technology sense, I suppose.
Georgia, are you
More
a runner?
Wearables.
Yeah, real wearable wearables.
Right. No, I don't run. I watch the runners as I drive my car by. And I think, you know, good for you for going out there. I love to exercise, but my exercise is more to the violent nature.
Oh, right. The martial arts.
I like to do martial arts when I'm training. And, you know, I still do my training, and I do track when I exercise so that I can know how my heart rate is going. I think that we're slowly, though, going to move away from devices that are only going to be able to do one thing. You know, being able to have all of these interconnected things that are going to be, one's going to be tracking my sugar levels, one's going to be tracking my, you know, how far I've ran, one's going to be getting my messages. And so the only thing that I think to this is that, you know what, I think that people are going to get more and more wanting to get all of their tech in one place. And so I think that it will slowly get swallowed up by, you know, smarter wearables that do more things versus ones that do similar, you know, unitary functions.
So do you use the workout app when you do martial arts?
I don't. No, I for a while I was using it, and then I felt whenever it did not actually track how long I'd been working out for, I found that was really frustrating for me, and then I would stop using it because of that. And the same thing for the activity app on the Apple Watch. I stopped using that because it would always like remind me to do something, and I'm like, I don't want to be reminded that I'm not exercising. I just want to not exercise when I'm not. So I turned it off. But I think that when it gets a little bit more accurate, so when, you know, the new Watch OS comes out, we'll see. I'll try it out again and see if it doesn't frustrate me instead of inspire me.
Yeah, it frustrates me a bit. I mean, I still use it, and it runs down my battery, which is one of the frustrating things. Also, when I do yoga, it doesn't know what I'm doing necessarily. And
Right. I think that's a big challenge with this. You know, this and like food tracking and all that kind of stuff. It's like the complications of like tracking your heart rate is actually, you know, of course, I've never created something to do this, but relatively easy, right? Like, you know, most of our wearables can do that. But anything beyond that, like knowing that you're, you know, lifting weights versus running a sprint or whatever, like all of that stuff takes direct input on your part to really kind of put that into the system. And then even there's like this lack of accuracy. Like it's all kind of estimation or whatever. And I don't know if we necessarily need super, you know, accurate data in that regard, but I just find it so much more trouble than maybe it's worth. But I guess maybe I'm not doing the same kind of exercises that would benefit from this sort of thing. You know, like I find a timer to be really useful when I'm at the gym. Like that's all I need is a timer.
Right. How long have I been working out for? How tired do I feel?
Yes.
Versus how tired does my watch tell me I should be? I was but the same thing to that, I was skiing with my watch on, and it had no clue what I was doing.
I had the same experience.
Yeah. You're driving. You're driving, aren't you?
So there is an app. There's an app called Slopes. I don't know if you've tried that, but that has some idea. But yeah, and then also you've probably experienced this with your Apple Watch. When it gets really cold, it doesn't work always.
No, it doesn't really.
So
I think that what you say, Jason, is that is the way that we are. We don't like to add extra inputs another step. It's already hard enough to get exercising, so you want it just to be slapped onto your wrist, and it can to kind of understand, depending on where you are and what type of movements, what exercises you like to do. And we'll slowly get there, but I think that that's why a lot of people don't use certain activity trackers, is because they don't want to add extra steps in between it, because that'll just stop them from training.
Yeah, and I mean, you can completely understand why a company like Under Armour or a shoe company like ASICS or whatever is snapping up these companies, because technology is hot, particularly with wearable technology, like the kind of fusion of this real world stuff that we're used to into kind of the technology space is happening. So this is just the easiest way for them to get into the game. Strava by the way, is still independent. So you've got them to kind of rally behind. They have an in-app store. They sell apparel and Google and gear through the in-app store. So, they're making money in that regard. But, so there are still independents. So I guess the countdown right now is set for when Strava is going to be picked up by some shoe company, essentially.
And when we'll get wearable shoes.
Right.
Shoes that we can wear. Think about it.
Future is now.
Yes, exactly. Finally, today, Google announced that they are retiring their photo app, Picasa. They'll stop supporting the desktop application on March 15th of this year. I don't really think you're losing anything because Google Photos is kind of like the new Picasa, and it's pretty awesome. At least in my opinion. I use it all the time. I love it.
Yeah, I use Picasa.
That's horrible. I didn't actually know that people still used Picasa when I was like, really? People are still using it? Which I used to use a long time ago and absolutely adored it.
Yeah.
But I was like, oh, okay.
It's like, oh, you're not dead yet? Oh, bye.
Okay, fine. I'm sad to see you go, I guess.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I mean, I thought Picasa was great at the time, and I'm sure they used all of our photos and information to make Google Photos as great as it is, especially with
to analyze our pictures so that we can put in like Rottweiler as a search term, and it'll pull up back all of the images in your library that has a Rottweiler in it. Crazy stuff.
Yes, or people that look like Rottweilers.
Or that. We'll get to that later.
I know. And the wonderful thing is that if you use Picasa, you just have to head on down to Google Photos and all of your photos will already be there.
Yeah.
And you can still use it. You're just not going to be able to, organize, edit albums as you used to be able to do beforehand. So you don't really have to panic yet. You have till March 15th.
Surprising you can't do that in Google Photos yet.
Well, you don't. I mean, I guess you don't need to. That's the idea.
Well, yeah, because it's always power. It's all like, search is your powerful way of doing all this kind of stuff. But it's, old habits die hard.
Right. Well, the same way we used to. I mean, I used to put all my mail into folders. You know, and now like Gmail, it's like you never do that because you didn't find everything. Right. It's all there. So I know. I mean, I guess if you wanted to just. Yeah, I mean, you look up the place in Google Photos, you look up the date, you can look up Christmas, Halloween, anything, and then suddenly you have this thing that I used to spend hours and hours, like, putting pictures into folders and stuff, not to mention when they were actually pictures.
Yeah. Yeah, favoriting things so I could find them and
finding the right cover photo for the album.
Right.
That one, okay.
Yeah.
What I don't want to see, deleting the ones so that other people can't find the ones. I'm like, no, not that one.
All right, well, coming up, we are going to talk about Deadpool with our gaming and tech culture expert, Sam. Don't worry, no spoilers. But first, let's take a minute to thank the sponsor of this episode, Wealthfront. You invest for the long term for you or your family's financial health, but trying to do it yourself, especially the right way, is complex and time-consuming. Luckily, there's Wealthfront. Traditional advisors charge huge fees between 1% and 3% of what they manage. With Wealthfront, you pay 0.25%, that's 25 basis points, 0 commissions, and no hidden fees. That's less than $5 a month to invest a $30,000 account. There are no additional charges for Wealthfront services. You can get started investing today with as little as $500. It takes only a few minutes to sign up at wealthfront.com, and it goes right to work monitoring your portfolios around the clock and taking action as soon as an opportunity arises. Wealthfront is transparent and accessible. You can view all your accounts in one place, whether they're personal, joint, or retirement. You can also see every trade that Wealthfront marks on your behalf in the dashboard on your desktop with their mobile app. Did you know that more than 90% of portfolios aren't invested the right way for the long term? With Wealthfront's new portfolio review, you can see if your portfolio is at risk, how diversified your investments are, what you're losing to fees. You can even minimize your taxes, all for free. Wealthfront's process is based on Nobel Prize-winning academic research and the best investment practices. We have heard from many TWIT fans who have used Wealthfront and love how they can diversify their portfolios and buy stocks from in-demand companies like Apple, Amazon, and Facebook, all commission-free. Wealthfront manages over $2.6 billion in client assets, and it's growing rapidly every day. So what are you waiting for? Invest in your future today with Wealthfront. Visit wealthfront.com/TNT to sign up and get your free personalized investment portfolio. You'll see the customized allocation they recommend for your profile. And just for TWIT listeners, if you sign up to invest, Wealthfront will manage your first $15,000 entirely free of charge for life. Join the many TWIT fans who have seen huge success with Wealthfront and claim your offer today at wealthfront.com/TNT.
All right, so welcoming to the show once again, Sam Machkovech for the weekly roundup of nifty gaming news. What's going on, Sam? It's good. It's good to have you here. Sorry, we had you muted there for a second.
What's going on? The answer to that would be incredibly long.
Okay, all right. No, I know you've always got so much stuff that is kind of on your list here. But this first one, I'm actually really super excited about. Basically, you're going to tell people a little bit about free and legal access to just a bunch of Windows 3.1 games. I remember this era of games, by the way, and I was a big fan. So tell us about this.
How would you like to play 1,100 free Windows 3.1 games all weekend? Doesn't that sound like a good use of an incredibly sunny weekend?
All weekend long, yes.
Well, lucky for you, archive.org, the Internet Archive, has made that happen. Jason over there at the archive has been in touch with Ars Technica a lot in the past couple of years. He's been going crazy as their lead and sole digital archivist. It's his job to take software of all kinds and try and keep it going. I called him up because he actually created a malware museum, just a museum of viruses, about a week ago. And I thought, okay, that's interesting. Gave him a call, and he said, I got one more thing for you, Sam. I'm about to launch the ability to play Windows 3.1 software in your web browser, and a lot of it. He has a ton of shareware. He goes to great lengths to try and pick out stuff that was made freely available and passes all legal muster. Which means it's about 1,500 pieces of software in all. I'm tempted to say apps, but this was from the era when the word app was never used. Executables, if we want to be in that field.
There we go.
But it's unbelievable, this collection. So the way it works is you go to this collection. He's actually gone and sampled about 40 pieces of software that range in desktop stuff and games and sort of this throwing stuff at the wall when the idea of a full commercially viable GUI, graphical user interface, was like a thing. So you get apps and you load them up, and it brings up a Windows 3.1 install inside your web browser that only loads that one piece of software. So sometimes you're going to get a game, sometimes you're going to get a calendar that just happens to have drop shadows. Sometimes, in one case, I double-clicked when I couldn't figure out what it was. It was just a tiny Bart Simpson icon that hung out at the bottom of the screen, and its eyes followed your mouse cursor. That was it. And some guy gave it away and had a little nagware notice saying, if you really liked this Bart Simpson eyeball toy, please send $5 to this home address. People would list their home addresses, their home phone numbers. And it was actually that part of it that I think the guys at archive.org were actually more jazzed about, this whole nagware era, where people just distributed shareware by floppies, and people would pass it from floppy to floppy to floppy all over the nation and world, and you'd end up with someone's address. On the screen right now is maybe my favorite of all of this stuff. There was a Windows 95 sample that was distributed right before Windows 95 came out, sent out on floppies. You'd put it in, and it would boot a version of Windows 95 with a working start menu and a bunch of really crappy clip art that would just bounce around the screen and tell you what you were in for. And it even came with a little system checker. So if you run this web emulator, it's called DOSBox, but it's running Windows. So if you run this DOSBox version of Windows 95 inside of Windows 3.1, inside of your web browser, it can tell you whether Windows 95 would run this way or not, which makes me wonder if that'll ever be in the cards. But for now, lots of solitaire, lots of chess, lots of other random board games, some pinball, a lot of dated stuff about Saddam Hussein and Ross Perot. Right. It's really 1992 all over again. It's ridiculous. I love it. I love it. I love it. I love it.
And this isn't the only time that archive.org, like you said, is doing this sort of thing. You can find MAME, in-browser MAME emulation. They have a section called the Console Living Room that you can go to, and it has a ton of gaming consoles. Like you can play Atari 2600 games in your browser.
I'm doing that right now.
I put it down. We have to get through the show. You only last a minute before you're like, okay, next. But still, it's such a great kind of resource. Yeah, I love it.
And there's more to come. When I was on the phone, he couldn't even stop himself. I think that he essentially admitted that System 6 and System 7 were next on his list. He did not confirm that, but the way he talked about those specific platforms and saying that's the kind of thing you want to preserve for kids who will never use those interfaces.
Yeah.
You know, kids born in the year 2000 may never use anything other than OS X when they think of a Macintosh computer. Gosh, even OS X will someday be dated. But that's a whole nother trip in time. But yeah, so he's not done. He's only getting started. And this sort of web-powered emulation is a really cool way to get this stuff out to a lot of people cheaply, quickly, and in a cool way. It's a really interesting dive back in an early era of computing. Get up on it.
Yeah.
Well, I know exactly what I will be playing all of the games on, which will be here, I have a picture so I don't have to. There we go. My little, wait, let's move it the right way. There we go. My arcade machine. I'm going to be playing it on. You see, because if you're going to do it, you're going to have to do it right.
Yeah.
There we go.
I'm jealous.
I don't know how Chip's Challenge will play on that. You have to let us know how that one goes.
It could be interesting. It could be interesting.
Well, Amazon also made some news this week. They launched a free game engine with Twitch integration. Was this a surprise, Sam?
Well, it's funny. I've got a few buddies who work at Amazon here in Seattle, and they were all teasing that they'd been working on this for about a year and a half. And I actually thought they were going to come out with some sort of Steam clone, like a rival to the Steam gaming system. So once this news came out, it all fit together. The acquisition of Twitch, Amazon has yet to really do anything with Twitch. And this is really the first big wave thing. On top of some other interesting work, specifically with Crytek. They've made some 3D engine stuff over the years, some very impressive stuff. And so Amazon has taken some of the best bits of their engine, Twitch integration and other stuff, and essentially saying, you know what, if you want to make a video game, come up with us. You can make a game for free. Zero down. You don't owe us any money to make a game, not even if you make money with the game. A lot of these other game engines are really fighting to be sort of the ultimate tool set. So if you're a small, medium, or large game maker, you waste less time trying to wrangle with the 3D bits and blobs, and you spend more time making the content. And so there's Unreal, and then there's Unity. Those are the two big ones, and they're making money, and they're getting a lot of people on board. Unity in particular has made big waves in the virtual reality space. A lot of people using Unity for that. But now with what Amazon's giving you, you can just start making a game, spend no money. Of course, the catch, and the way they're going to make money, is that if you want to use any of Amazon's cloud-based services, for example, leaderboards or multiplayer matchmaking, any of these kinds of things, that's not only do you have to pay them, but you have to use their online services through this engine. And of course, the idea is that everybody making a game wants to be on the internet. It's very hard to make money with an offline game. There's exceptions, obviously, but if you're a small game maker, you're going to make something online. Amazon knows this, so this is an incredible sort of hook, line, sinker in terms of getting people in to start for free and to make money off of those people in the long run.
What was the early impression from gaming developers that you saw as far as Lumberyard was concerned?
Well, they did a good job of getting people who are already making games and sneaking them some access, having them make stuff already. So the consensus so far is it's a good tool set. Basically, Amazon, what I always hear from people is that everything they use for their in-house development, and they are making games at Amazon, nothing that we've seen yet in terms of major tools, but everything that they make and test and love usually comes out 2 to 3 years later for the public consumption. So this is another example of that, where there are people making games, making solid stuff. It's a really good engine. It scales well to different platforms. Now, the thing that I think is really interesting that no one's talking about, I didn't get to cover this one specifically for ours, but I see this not necessarily being a games move. This is a Trojan horse. Amazon knows that 3D interfaces are the future. All the big companies know this. Everybody's big into virtual reality, mixed augmented reality, all this stuff. And there's a lot of language, including a weird zombie clause. That's the thing that most people noticed, was that there was a clause about how this engine could be used in the wake of a zombie outbreak. But what's funny is that language was actually talking about all the different ways that the engine could be used for computing, for telemedicine, for teleeducation. Don't even be fooled. Amazon wants to be part of 3D development of everything. They want to be the thing. Amazon wants to be in every digital ecosystem you can think of. This is the beginning, I think, of a big assault into saying, oh, you want to make a 3D app for using some sort of virtual reality thing in 5 years? We've already got that stuff established. Games being just sort of this little Trojan horse into a much bigger industry. So that's what I see is super fascinating about this. I think that they may really build steam in the next 5 years before something like that becomes the next big thing.
Right. And now finally, not gaming, but your beat at ours is culture reporter. So it's no surprise that you had the chance to view the much-awaited Deadpool movie this week. You wrote up a review. No spoilers, of course. So hopefully listeners know that up front so we can hear what you have to say about Deadpool. What'd you think?
So I go not too many movie screenings for Ars Technica, but this one popped up and it was kind of in the edge of our tech and comic culture beat. Blown away. I'm not going to say it's like the best movie of the year, but I would say the best movie of February, which is kind of a low bar considering how movies are in February. But I will say there are things about the movie that do not work from a comic fanboy perspective that I think average viewers will never really be bothered by. In particular, Deadpool, for those the uninitiated, is really sarcastic, really into breaking the fourth wall, playing with a lot of gags. For example, like in the comic book, there would be little blocks of text that pop up, from previous issue, and he'd be the guy to make fun of that in very vulgar fashion. And this movie sees Ryan Reynolds playing Deadpool and doing all of that and then some. The entire opening sequence is sort of a play on the idea of how opening sequences are in movies. The entire movie feels like you've got a really, really good, savvy MST3K styled companion along the ride for a formulaic action movie. And so what you end up with is Ryan Reynolds essentially putting in, I'd say, easily one of the top 3 superhero acting performances I've ever seen. Absolutely on par with, I'd say, Iron Man by Robert Downey Jr. Just completely kills in terms of being funny, in terms of being tough, in terms of having to slow it down. He understands comic timing and momentum for all of these scenes. He alone is worth the price of admission. Unfortunately, Deadpool is really linked to the X-Men franchise and the X-Force franchise, and he's really interesting when playing off a lot of other characters. Unfortunately, we only get 2 X-Men in this movie that he's attached to, none of the other sort of Deadpool franchise stuff, and also none of the Deadpool going around the world doing crazy things stuff. This is actually a really small plot. You get the feeling, and there were reports to this effect, that this was a movie whose budget was slashed, and they had to make a lot with a little. And Ryan Reynolds has to put a lot on his back because the movie really is like 5 scenes that are just kind of stretched out. And there's only so much that Ryan Reynolds can make fun of that stuff before you go, well, it's actually satirizing itself in terms of how it plays out. But the funniest masturbation joke I've ever seen in a movie might be sort of a way to set the tone. This is really juvenile, but not in a more weird than mean. Deadpool in the early 90s was this sort of post-politically correct lashing out and would really say awful things in the dialogue, stuff that, especially woman-hating kind of stuff. You don't really get that here. You get a guy who's just goofy, gross, making fun of other people in a way that's very easy to, whether you are a fanboy or just a curious passerby, and you're at least 15 years old. This is hard R. I'm not a guy who's really worried about the children in terms of language and violence, but they really do push it in terms of like, don't just take your kid in and think it's a superhero movie. This is absolutely brutal, violent, hilarious, penis-filled content. So if you're ready for that, then by all means, you're going to have a really good time with Deadpool. I recommend it with all those caveats.
Now I'm not sure if I want to see it. I was all into it. Now I'm like, I don't know. I might wait a little bit.
Be there at the end.
I would assure you with a few things, but that would be a spoiler. We're not going to do spoilers. Yeah. I recommend it. I feel pretty good about recommending it this weekend. Definitely the loved one in your life. You should definitely have a good Valentine's time with Deadpool.
It's a date movie.
Yeah, apparently so. Sam Machkovech, Ars Technica. Where can people find you on Twitter?
They can find me on Twitter at Sam Red. They can also find me over here glued to my PlayStation all weekend. I just got my copy of Street Fighter V. Review of that will be up at the site early next week. And also just got this guy, the new Plants vs. Zombies Abomination. So I will also be playing that. I'll have a review of that up later in the week. So next week, I'll be here talking about both of those, I hope.
Man, your job sounds hard. No, seriously. I know it's not easy to like review these games and everything, but this guy plays games for a living. This guy plays games for a living. How awesome is that? Thank you so much, Sam. It was great having you on once again. We'll talk to you next week.
Take care.
Bye.
Bye.
Well, we got an email from Matthew B. Howell, no relation that we know of.
Nope, not that I know of.
Talking about yesterday, we had a conversation about harassment, and he writes, "While I generally applaud Facebook and Twitter's current willingness to stop bullying and harassment on their respective sites, this current call to action by social media seems a little disingenuous." Matthew then went on to list several instances of harassment on Facebook and Twitter that he reported, and he was ignored. Then he adds, "Facebook and Twitter are dead to me at this point. I don't give a flying fig." F-I-G, fig, about social media in any form. They've made their bed. Now they can sleep in it. So, yeah, I mean, I don't know if he's responding. I know yesterday I was saying on the show, Georgia, that women usually bore the brunt of harassment on social media, mostly. I didn't mean to say that men were not harassed on social media. I absolutely know that happens all the time. But I just think percentage-wise, it's often more women. But, yeah, I get it. It's tough out there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's really horrible. And there's just so much of it. It's so hard to police because, you get banned, you're just going to make another Twitter account. And so it's hard to, without the accountability of having a name and an actual address attached to an account, it's the Wild West. And so unfortunately, people can be horrible when they're anonymous. Mm-hmm. They can be horrible when they're not, but more horrible when they're anonymous.
Yeah.
Yeah, and one more thing on this. I was listening to a TED Talk this morning that was really interesting about this, and it's just something to think about, that a lot of these platforms really depend on this kind of, not necessarily harassment, but people saying inflammatory things, because the more inflammatory things that are said, the more people that glom on, the more people that see it, the more it gets forwarded, and people comment, and that means more eyeballs and more, advertising and more money. So it really is that a lot of these platforms really do benefit from our antisocial behavior on social media. So
which causes a reason for them not to police it as strongly as they could. And you're absolutely right. We become more polarized. If you really see the person that shouts the loudest, and then that might make someone else engaged. If, the things that people were discussing were exceptionally vanilla, we would become bored. Fear and anger sells, and it makes us engage, and it makes us click, and it makes us become part of the process. And we're going to make sure to check and go back and get all our friends to participate in order to defend whatever we believe in, because our beliefs, we actually feel like when we get our beliefs or thoughts attacked, it's the same reaction in us physiologically as being physically attacked. And so that's why you get these really quick reaction that's why quick media is not great. If you're really angry or really upset, stay away from social media, because it's really dangerous. You're going to say something, and then when your limbic system calms down, you'll be like, oof, I probably should not have gone as far as I did.
Right.
So the TED Talk is Wael Ghonim. I'm probably pronouncing that wrong. He was part of one of the guys that started the Arab Spring in Egypt. It's really interesting, just if you want to listen more about this.
There you go. All right, coming up, we took all 3 Apple stories today and we made a pie out of them. A delicious 5-minute long apple pie. But before we get to the pie, let's take a minute to thank the sponsor. Now I wish we really had pie. The sponsor of this episode is Ring Video Doorbell. We're all familiar with the sound of a doorbell. It means a package is being delivered or friends are coming over for dinner. But it's also the sound of someone planning to rob you. Over 95% of home break-ins happen during the day. Burglars almost always start by ringing your doorbell. It might sound something like that. If it sounds like that, then you know what? They're probably not going to rob your place, because you're going to know that they're there. With the Ring Video Doorbell, you can see and talk to anyone at your door from anywhere in the world using your smartphone. Ring's advanced motion detection alerts you even if someone doesn't actually ring the doorbell. With Ring Video Doorbell, you can talk to delivery people. You can keep an eye on the package that they're dropping off. If someone tries to mess with it, you'll get an instant alert and HD video of the entire thing. It's kind of like you have a neighbor that's keeping an eye on your home at all times. I've installed this. I've used it. I use it all the time. I get the notifications when there's motion at my door, and I can see who's there. Is it, my kids walking through the door, or is it somebody else? It's just awesome having that clarity from wherever you happen to be, and you'll be surprised how useful that is to know that as the day goes on. Installing Ring takes minutes. It really doesn't take very long at all. They give you all the tools to do that, and you can link it to your current wiring to ring your bell that you already have, or you can have it run wirelessly. It has a built-in rechargeable battery, and that'll still sync with your phone and send the notification. Let the battery last around a year on a single charge. So put your mind at ease, protect your home with a video doorbell. Time Magazine and USA Today named one of their top 10 gadgets. Go to ring.com/TNT for free expedited FedEx shipping. That's ring.com/TNT. With Ring, you are always home.
All right, time to talk all things Apple. Mark Gurman at 9 to 5 Mac has updated his 4-inch iPhone 5 SE and iPad 3 rumors with a date. The company, previously, they said they would announce the new devices at a March 15th event, and now his sources say they will be available to purchase on March 18th. Now, Georgia, this is a little bit different than what they usually do, right? It's not usually that close.
Yeah, usually you have to, you pre-order and they wait, and you wait 2 weeks. In Canada, maybe a year. No, just just joking. And so they end up dealing with pre-orders. And for this, we believe that what they're going to be doing is you're going to be able to get them almost right away. So they're going to be catching the wave, and you can get your phone.
What do you think about the 4-inch phone?
Well, it's very interesting. I think that it's a brilliant marketing move. I think that some people really don't like phones that are almost the size of tablets. They're too large. And so there are some people that are very staunch one-handed users. So I think that for that, it's really smart to have a 4-inch iPhone so that it's easy to fit in your pocket. It's easy to bring around. It's kind of portable. It will be the low-range iPhone. And I think that it's just smart because it adds to their marketing base. So if people want a huge honking phone, they have one. If they want something that's really small and manageable, they also are able to get that.
So just spurring people to upgrade that wouldn't normally upgrade.
Yeah. And a lot of people do. A lot of people are very attached to having that small screen and be able to one-handed use, which I don't even understand how to one-handed use a phone anymore. Because I really
know, right?
No, there's no way. There's no way anymore. And so I think that that's great for them. And I think a lot of people, especially if, you're going to be giving a phone to your kids, it's nice to have a smaller phone, a little bit more affordable. And they're going to be able to put it very easily inside of their bag, inside of their pocket. You don't have to worry about them, bending it, breaking it as much.
Mm-hmm.
What's old is new again.
Mm-hmm. What about the iPad 3 and the smart connector, or the iPad 3 that might have pencil integration? What do you think about that?
Well, I don't use my iPad anymore very much. So I think that it's great. I think that the pencil use is just, you need to have that with an iPad. It's such a wonderful experience to be able to draw and to be able to use, and that they're going to have the smart connectors. But again, I don't know if this is going to be a huge boost to iPad sales. So I think that the Pro is more where people are going to, but for people that want something light and small, it's nice to have.
And have you seen the NATO style, I think that's how you pronounce it, NATO or nano style bands for the Apple Watch? They're like, I don't know, they look like, I can't explain what they, cloth, yeah.
Kind of, rugged and can be used.
Right.
It doesn't really appeal to me. But I think that for people that, they want the kind of, I'm hoping that they go, so they have the really rugged militaristic look, and then they have the sporty look, and then they have the very guy-ish look for the other bands. And so I'm hoping that they have something for women, something that is a little bit more elegant, something that I can wear out when I'm wearing a dress, something kind of, pretty and delicate looking on a band, because even though they're also purported to have the black Milanese, which is going to be beautiful, but it's still clunky and large. And when I am out, I find that I often don't want to wear my Apple Watch and I don't want to carry around my phone, but it does not look great out. And so I'm hoping that they'll think of something that will be a little bit sleeker, a little bit more delicate.
That's the Pebble right there. Go back to the first image. So this is the NATO band. Yeah, it just reminds me of a strap on my backpack or something.
Yeah. I like it.
Do you like it? Would you use that?
I think I might, yeah. I mean, unless someone wants to buy me the Hermes loop, and then I would.
Which is beautiful.
Just throwing that out there.
Anyone want to get me something?
Valentine's Day is coming up. You might get that on Sunday.
I absolutely will not get that.
There you go. All right. Another story here. Apple is reportedly entering the content game with none other than Dr. Dre, which makes a lot of sense, I suppose. The Hollywood Reporter has sources that say Dre will star and act as executive producer of a 6-episode vehicle called Vital Signs. Apple is reportedly paying the bill for the production. It'll be potentially distributed through Apple Music. Don't know if it's going to be distributed outside of that, but I think kind of some of the exclusive stuff that we're seeing through Apple Music with Taylor Swift's live concert and everything, that certainly is an example of Apple interested in kind of bringing this exclusive content to Apple Music. So it's certainly not outside of the realm of possibility as far as that's concerned. Focusing on I guess each episode focuses on one of Dre's emotions and how he handles those emotions. I don't know what to think about that.
Like Inside Out.
Yeah, kind of, I guess. It's kind of interesting.
The dark version of Inside Out.
Yeah, I mean, yes, exactly. This is like a dark drama. It's not a comedy or anything like that.
Not a
Violence.
It's not for your kids.
Pretty significant sexual content in there as well. So
not like Inside Out.
Yeah. No.
Like Inside Out, except not.
So what do we think? Are we interested in Apple's content play?
I'm excited of Apple creating its own content for TV. I think that that's a great idea, and that excites me. I don't know if this project in and of itself does, but I think that Apple has had a really hard time being able to license TV shows. And so this is their own shot at doing what Netflix and Amazon has done so well at, in creating original content. And so this is the building block. And there's a lot of rumors that Apple has been going out to Hollywood and executives and talking about how they can create their own original content that would be just sole proprietary to them. My only issue with it is that Apple does best when they enter the field in a new area where people are not doing very well. And then Apple does a great job of taking over. But people are really happy with Netflix and they're really happy with Amazon. And so I'm not sure if they have enough stay power to be able to make enough content for people to move over to them from Netflix and Amazon. And so it's going to be one of these very interesting looks at, how is Apple going to be able to do this? And there's so much competition already in the field.
It is really interesting that when Netflix, first came along, it was the DVD thing, and then they did the streaming, and they kind of, I think they always had ambitions to get into original content, but you just weren't seeing that, right? It was a technology company that was, making Blockbuster, irrelevant. That's all they were doing, and then suddenly they do content, and they did it really well, and now everybody wants to get into that game. Google's doing it with YouTube Red, and we talked about that a couple of days ago with mixed results. So I don't know how well it's doing. But yeah, it'll be really interesting to see if it's as easy to execute on creating top-level quality content that is an incentive for people to buy into a service, as Netflix seemingly made it seem. It could be, because they keep coming out with really great stuff.
Yeah.
They have so many good shows.
Yeah.
It's true. All right, now I have a public service announcement. Do not set your phone back to 1970. It's a trap. Now, this sort of thing has been rolling around the internet for a while, but it recently resurfaced on 4chan with a photo that tells people, change the date on your phone to January 1st, 1970, then reboot it and be prepared for a wild ride. Do not do this.
Goodness.
Your phone will allegedly stop working permanently. I did not try it on my pink phone because I love her too much. But people have tried it, and some people say, no, I did it, and it didn't turn into a brick. But then that has a time zone issue.
Yeah,
I don't know.
Say don't do this. I mean, I feel like this is something that we've heard, at least I feel like over the years, I've heard of, just the date and time settings on your device in general. If they go back too far, or, we saw this with, the Y2K, there was a big concern around that. Things can really go haywire, but and have in the past. So I would just say don't even tempt fate as far as this is concerned.
So of course, because it's something you should not do,
people will do it.
I did it.
You did it.
I did it. I know.
On your pink iPhone?
It was like Leo with the stylus.
It's hard to do. Yeah. You have to scroll for a long time, don't you?
I did it live during the iMore show, and I'm scrolling for like a real Serenity left and got like water and came back, and I'm still scrolling to do it. And so I set it to January 1st, 1970, but I didn't reboot my phone. I just wanted to see, I just wanted to test the waters of danger. I didn't want to actually take a jump in.
Dip your toe in,
Though, yeah, and it was fine. My phone still functions, but I did have a mild amount of anxiety worrying about if my phone was suddenly going to on its own reboot.
Yes.
Which would have been horrible, and I would have been like, calling up the Apple geniuses to say, please see me today. I need my phone. But I did take a look at Candy Crush, and I had to wait 75 generations in order to play another game. And so then I reset it, and everything was back to the regular time, and everything was fine. But really, you shouldn't do it. I did it so that you don't have to.
Thank you.
Don't do what I do.
Thank you.
Do what I say.
Right. That was so dangerous of you. But yeah, if someone does it to you, if you happen to have this happen to you, you can take it, and Apple will probably not have any idea what happened and maybe replace your iPhone for you.
Yeah, that was the dangerous. That was probably the not smart part, was that there's I couldn't really say that I didn't do this on purpose because there's a live feed of me doing it on purpose. So maybe next time I won't do it on air.
Yeah, exactly.
Hopefully they don't watch the show.
Or just make sure that they don't know who you are when you come in.
I'll wear a
with your
little
broken
mask
phone.
or something. Right.
There you go. Our TNT fan of the day is at T Smither. Smither? Well,
Are you T Smither?
On Twitter?
Could be.
Did you snap this picture? T Smither is actually a Mac specialist by day, dad and husband and user group guy by night. He tweets, keeping up with tech, how I watch TNT late night with a glass of wine on iPad Air 2 and games on iPad Pro. So, this is not a bad way to watch.
We're on the
Little
small
glass of wine.
screen. The games are on the big screen.
Well, yeah, you need your games on as big a screen as you got.
Right,
I would
that's true.
say.
That's because you're keeping him company while he does something that he enjoys. It's like family.
Yep.
Yeah.
Show us how you watch or listen to TNT. And Georgia, this goes for you too. You can do that as well.
I will.
Just record a video, take a picture of your setup, yourself, whatever you got. Post it to Instagram, Google+, Twitter, or Facebook. Use the hashtag HowIWatchTNT, and hopefully we will find it. Oh, you're taking a picture right now.
I'm doing it right now. This is how I watch TNT. There we go. Okay.
On the other side of
I'm
Skype.
going to tweet it out. I'm going to tweet it out after.
All right.
Well, coming up, Microsoft Garage has a new app that shows off their advances in machine learning and is doggone fun. But first,
I see what you did there.
crazy about the puns on a Friday. Let's take a minute to thank the sponsor of this episode, PillPack. This morning, I counted how many reminder and to-do apps I have on my phone. Do you want to take a guess, Jason Howell? How many reminder and to-do apps? Apps. Like, how many do I need to remind myself of everything I have to
7.
do? Okay. What's your guess, Georgia?
28.
Well, somewhere. I'm 12. 12. I'm pretty good.
Wow.
At,
See, I thought I was overshooting.
Yeah, so I need an organizational app just to organize my to-do apps. Wow. If my to-dos were easier, that would be better. When it comes to going to the pharmacy to pick up and then remember to take prescriptions, PillPack does just that. They are a full-service pharmacy that takes care of everything for you. They pre-sort and deliver their medications and vitamins in these easy-to-tear packets. You can see how easy they are. You can hear how easy they are to tear. I'll just tear one off right now so I can take some of this medicine that's really for Elliot Williams. Vitamins. They're only vitamins. They're labeled with the date and the time for each dose. You no longer need that antiquated Monday to Sunday pill box. They do this by using robots and digital imaging technology along with pharmacist oversight to ensure the accuracy of every pill pack. Their pharmacists are available 24/7 from the privacy of your home, so you no longer need to have those awkward pharmacy encounters. And they proactively call your doctor for you to manage all your refills so you will never run out. No extra costs beyond your standard copays. Shipping is always free. They're compatible with most major insurance plans, including most forms of Medicare Part D. When you sign up for PillPack, they make sure that your insurance is compatible before they transfer any of your medications over. Switching is easy. Sign up on their secure site, and they take care of everything for you. They're recognized by Time Magazine as a top 25 invention, and Jill Duffy gave it a great review in PC Magazine. There's also a PillPack medication reminder app for the iPhone and the Apple Watch. PillPack PillPack is medication simplified. You won't believe how much easier and more convenient it is until you've tried it. Here's what you can do. Go to pillpack.com/twit to sign up. Their site is very easy to use. Takes about 5 minutes to sign up. When you use our link, transfer your prescriptions to PillPack, you will get a credit for $20 worth of vitamins and OTCs. That's pillpack.com/TWIT. All right, a new app from Microsoft is getting some attention today. And believe me when I tell you that I have not been this excited about anything since Peach.
Yeah, you've been pretty excited about
I've been pretty excited. Now, Fetch can tell you what breed your dog is, but even better, it can tell you what dog breed you are if you are a dog. You can try this now.
If we were a dog?
If you were a dog or are a dog.
Oh, am I a dog?
If you were a dog.
Man,
but if you were a dog, it will look at your picture and say what kind of dog you are. Go right now to what-dog.net to try it. You're a poodle.
I'm not a poodle. Am I really a poodle?
In that picture, you were a poodle. You're smart. You're friendly. You get along with people easily. But I've seen some fierce poodles that can fight when challenged.
They're not that fierce poodles. They're really.
If you've spent enough time at the dog park, you will have spotted a vicious poodle who, there's Jason. He's an Irish setter.
Irish setter. I'm eager.
Oh, that's a nice dog. There we go.
Great jogging partner.
A bit stubborn. Okay.
Friendly.
Great jogging partner.
Mm-hmm.
I've got long legs. I'm very tall, so that makes sense.
So it really depends on the picture. Sometimes it told me several different dogs. I was a dachshund for a while until I just found this picture, and then I like that better. I'm a Shetland sheepdog. Strong barker.
Oh, that's so true.
Agile and sturdy.
Very sweet. Yes.
Loving with its family. And Kara, who's our new technical director, she was an English Cocker Spaniel. Outgoing, needs to be told again and again.
Wait a minute. You're our new technical director. We have to tell you again and again?
But I have to say, Georgia, another picture, she was a poodle. So like, I guess when she's working, so maybe if we had a picture of you working, Georgia, you would do something different.
We need to have her next to me now to see how similar we look.
Yeah.
Which one is more poodle?
Right. So
poodle off.
This is from Microsoft. Ooh, Brian Burnett. Italian Greyhound, slender and muscular, boundless energy, needs to run and play.
That last part is true.
So that's actually my dog.
Oh, okay.
And he is a mutt. He's part German Shepherd, part Pit Bull, part Rottweiler.
Yeah.
And so, they got it. But I did it another time, and they said he was a Rhodesian Ridgeback, which, interestingly enough, when we go to dog parks, people ask that too.
So what is this an illustration of? What is Microsoft
machine learning,
doing here?
AI, they've figured out how to tell what different dog breeds are. Or, I mean, it's pretty amazing when you think that a machine can tell whether you're a person or a dog. I mean, we take it for granted right now, but, you can just look at a picture. And if you put pictures in the app, there's just an iOS app or the web app. But you can put a picture in there and it says whether it's not a dog or a person. So these things are amazing if you think about it,
We're getting there.
We're
slowly getting there.
Yeah.
I'm a poodle, but we're slowly getting there.
I'm not a poodle, but we're close. We're getting there someday soon. Someday maybe I won't be a poodle anymore. A few weeks ago, the same project that Microsoft released, Mimicker Alarm, which is the alarm that when it goes off, it gives you an expression that you have to make with your face, and it can tell you whether you're actually making an angry face or whether, no, that's still too sad or that's too excited. You need to be more angry. And, it's all kind of examples of how they're taking, like you said, their deep learning, their machine language, or machine learning. And
that
interpreting
one's really interesting for advertising, so that they would be able to tell how you react through your micro expressions to advertising and different things that are on the screen. It could get quite interesting because it's very difficult for humans to be able to control the tiny expressions that they do when they're looking at something, thinking of something, reading something.
It is interesting. Yeah, and you can correct it. You said, well, that my dog isn't actually a German Shepherd. It's this, and so to help, they want you to help them.
Yeah. Then you are a teacher to the machine.
And Microsoft Garage, they've released a lot of apps. It's like, are you a twin or not? There's my mustache. It's like all these things. How old are you? You remember that one? Like everyone does it.
Oh, that was hilarious.
Yeah, they post it on social media. It's like someone there knows what they're doing in terms of getting this out and getting us all.
Now they just need to take all those little things and combine it into one mega app.
And then it would take over the world.
Yep, that's pretty much what would happen.
There we go.
Well,
our robot overloads.
Exactly. Georgia, thank you so much for joining us. I know you do some anxiety, in addition to your work at iMore, your podcast that you do anxiety videos as well. You are a professional psychotherapist, and that's correct, right? Psychotherapist, not just a therapist.
Yes.
Okay. So you have some new anxiety videos. Tell us about those.
Yes, I do. So we have 2 new videos that will be coming out in 3 weeks. One is on parenting, and one is on the maladaptive behavioral techniques that we tell ourselves, like the kind of critical thoughts that we go through and what they would be labeled. And the other one is on relaxation techniques to help you live a more peaceful Zen existence.
And then you're going to be speaking at the Coco Love Conference in October. I had not heard of that. Tell us about that.
Yes, I'll be talking at Coco Love. And so this is a conference that deals with technology and people and how we all interrelate, which is lovely. If you've never been to a conference, it's such a blast. And that's October 14th to 16th in Philly.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for joining us.
Yeah, thank you, Georgia. Always a pleasure.
Take
Thank
care.
you for having me.
We'll talk to you soon. All right, so no show next Monday. Twit's going to be closed for President's Day. We are going to have Jason Abrazizi from Mashable on Tuesday's show. TNT records live every Monday through Friday, although, next week, Tuesday through Friday, 4 p.m. Pacific, 7 p.m. Eastern, 12 a.m. UTC at twit.tv/live. You can be a part of the show always by emailing us at tnt@twit.tv, or you can leave us a short voicemail, 260-TNT-SHOW, and find us on Twitter. We are at Tech News Today TV.
If you want to subscribe to our show, you can do that at twit.tv/TNT. And if you subscribe through iTunes and you're there and you like the show, go ahead and just leave us a review. It matters.
Do it.
And we would appreciate it. And if you're not getting your podcast that way, tell a friend or tweet about us. We love when you spread the word if you like the show. And subscribe to the Twit newsletter at twit.tv/newsletter. And if you want to tweet at me, I am at Megan Morrone.
Tweet at me. I am at Jason Howell. Thanks to our technical director, Kara Cole, and all the folks who help us produce this show every single day. And thanks to you for talking tech with us. We will see you next Tuesday. Don't forget that. Bye.